Consider the tomato, specifically the leaves. Pretty unremarkable. But if you look closely, you may find some tiny insects. There, fixed in place, and feeding quietly on the plant's sap, sit the flattened, oval young of the whitefly. They are barely visible, tiny, translucent flecks, and moving among them walks a hunter even smaller. She is Encarsia formosa, a parasitoid wasp half a millimeter long. Her head and thorax are a glossy black, her abdomen a clean, luminous yellow. She does not sting, yet within the confined world of a greenhouse, she is one of the most consequential killers on Earth, protecting tomato crops across the globe for a century. Encarsia formosa belongs to the family Aphilinidae, a lineage of tiny chalcid wasps whose members make a living almost exclusively as parasitoids of plant-sucking insects, the whiteflies, scales, aphids, and the like. The adult wasp is a study in efficiency. Everything about her body has been pared down to the essentials. Her wings are clear and fringed with fine hairs, her antennae, held forward, are constantly moving and are her primary instrument of perception. And at the tip of her abdomen lies the ovipositor, a slender, retractable tube through which she both lays her eggs and assists her in feeding. She is among the smallest animals that hunt another animal one at a time. And yet, she is not a generalist. She is a specialist attuned to a particular kind of prey, the immature stages of whiteflies. Her preferred host is the greenhouse whitefly, the pest against which she is most studied and most successfully deployed. But she is not strictly faithful to a single species of prey. She will accept the sweet potato or silverleaf whitefly as well, and across her range, she has been recorded attacking more than 24 different species. This breadth, combined with her appetite, is precisely what makes her so valuable to farmers and gardeners. If you look across a population of Encarsia formosa, you will find an almost perfect absence of males. This isn't an accident of sampling. Encarsia formosa reproduces in a process called thelatoky, a form of parthenogenesis in which females develop from unfertilized eggs and give rise to daughters, who in turn give rise to more daughters, generation after generation with no father. Males do occasionally appear, but they are rare and, for the purpose of the species, functionally irrelevant. The lineage is, in effect, an unbroken line of mothers. The cause of this is an infection. Living inside the cells of Encarsia formosa are bacteria of the genus Wolbachia, an intracellular parasite inherited by every daughter through her egg. Wolbachia is a manipulator of reproduction across a large range of insects, and in Encarsia formosa, it performs a particular trick. It induces the unfertilized egg to develop as a female rather than, as would normally happen in wasps, a male. The wasp and the bacterium have become so intertwined that the relationship is no longer optional. The female still goes through the motions of her sexual biology, and the rare males still produce sperm, but the machinery has decayed. The females cannot, in practice, be fertilized. Sex has become vestigial. The bacterium has taken over the business of making daughters. Researchers have tested the effects of Wolbachia directly. By feeding the wasps antibiotics, they can suppress the Wolbachia, and when they do, the suppressed females begin to produce males. The males who hatch do not behave like the rest of their kin. They do not feed on the whiteflies. Instead, the vengeful males turn and attack their sisters, becoming hyperparasitoids on the females in order to grow. The males are parasites of the females, who are parasites on whiteflies, and only exist because the bacterial parasite Wolbachia was suppressed. So an all-female population has its benefits. An all-female population is an all-reproducing population, with no parasitic males to worry about. Every individual released into the greenhouse is a mother in waiting. The bacterium, pursuing its own evolutionary interest in being passed down through eggs, has inadvertently engineered the wasp into a more efficient agent of biological control. Encarsia formosa's hunt is not a chase. There is no pursuit, no ambush, no sudden striking. Her prey, the whitefly nymphs, are stationary. Once they settle on a leaf in their first days of life, they fix themselves in place and feed. The search for hosts begins before the wasp even lands. Plants under attack by whiteflies do not suffer in silence. They release volatile chemicals, and Encarsia formosa can detect them. Once on a leaf, she walks with her antennae sweeping the surface ahead of her, drumming about, testing the leaf for the presence of hosts. And when she has parasitized all available hosts on a leaf, she leaves, abandoning the depleted patch to search elsewhere for unparasitized prey. This restlessness is part of what makes her so effective at suppressing whiteflies. The parasitoid larvae hatch inside the living whiteflies. The emerging larva does not kill its host outright. To do so would destroy its only source of food. Instead, the larva begins to feed slowly on the host's internal tissues and fluids, growing as the host grows, taking care to leave behind the vital organ systems. The parasitoid does not simply grow on its own schedule. Its progress is coupled to the development of the whitefly. The parasitoid paces its own development to ensure that the host's body is at its richest and largest before its final fatal move. Roughly halfway through the parasitoid's development inside the host, the whitefly changes color. The pale, translucent scale darkens to black. The host is now dead in all but name. Inside, the parasitoid completes its transformation. The larva pupates within the husk, and the adult wasp takes shape. When the new adult is ready, she uses her mandibles to cut a round exit hole through the top of the blackened scale and emerges a complete free-living wasp, ready within hours to begin the search for new hosts. She emerges already pregnant with the next generation, already carrying Wolbachia, already capable of laying the unfertilized eggs that will become her daughters. The cycle simply resumes. Alongside laying eggs, the adult female wasp directly feeds on whiteflies. She punctures a whitefly nymph with her ovipositor and drinks the body fluids that well up from the wound, sometimes tearing open her prey to feed more freely. The nymphs she feeds upon do not survive. No eggs are laid, no offspring will emerge. Encarsia formosa is something called a non-concurrent destructive host feeder. She will use different hosts for laying eggs and for feeding. The biological control upshot of this is significant. Total whitefly mortality caused by Encarsia formosa is the sum of the two parts, the hosts that die from parasitism and the hosts that die from being fed on. In a greenhouse, host feeding can account for a substantial share of the whiteflies killed, adding a layer of pressure to the pest population that parasitism alone would never achieve. Encarsia formosa was among the first natural enemies that people deliberately mass-produced and released to control a crop pest. Its story with humanity reaches back to the 1920s, when growers in Britain discovered that this wasp could keep the greenhouse whitefly in check on their tomato crops, and began rearing and distributing it. Today, the wasp is reared commercially on an industrial scale. And the scientific attention lavished upon her has, in turn, made her one of the best understood insects on the planet. The next time you pass a greenhouse or pick a tomato, share a thought for the hunter on the underside of the leaf. She is one of the smallest predators in the world, and one of the most indispensable for humanity's produce.